Oh, would you look at the time. It's the season for manufacturers everywhere to figure out how to make glasses out of a number, which means it's time for an arbitrary end-of-the-year video. So I'm going to be doing the same thing I did last year, and just talk about some of my experiences with and related to video games, both good and bad, from least to most favorite. But this year, I'm not going to limit myself to games that came out in 2018, just games I played. There were too many good ones that I do not want to skip over. I'm also not going to be sticking with just the good stuff this year, because as nice as it is to look on the bright side, there were a few game-related things that soured my taste this year. And, just like last year, this isn't some kind of awards video. I'm in no way claiming that this is a scale of quality. This is just a reminiscence of the good and bad times. Let's begin. When I was a kid, nothing was cooler than the games from Blizzard Entertainment. Where other kids were growing up with Mario and Sonic, I was nuking Zerg and waging war across Azeroth. It was fun. I cherish those memories. And it seems like I'll have to, because the Blizzard I knew and loved doesn't seem to exist anymore. It's been a downward spiral for a while. The rise of loot boxes, Activision's acquisition of them, but this year was just the pits. Battle for Azeroth's shoddy release and horrible storytelling, sacrificing Diablo to the mobile game scrap heap, and Heroes of the Storm getting gutted. Its entire esports scene left to dry. I used to adore Blizzard's dedication to quality, to never releasing games unless they were sure they were the best they could be. And while I can see developers there that are still trying to live up to that legacy, those people aren't in control anymore. And that hurts. It just hurts. Oh dear, looks like we've got ourselves an extremely unpopular opinion here. But rest assured that this opinion is not meant to thrash on the quality of an objectively good game. It's one that thrashes on the fact that I did not enjoy said game. I fully respect and expect you to disagree, but I also don't care. Because god damn did I hate Xenoblade 2. When a game advertises itself as the sequel to one of my favorite games of all time, with my absolute favorite cast of characters, it cannot drop the ball like this. I hate all of these people. But I was willing to work through that. I was willing to overlook the cringy anime tropes and disjointed lip sync because the game was still solid, the world intriguing, and the music sublime. But then this happened.
Poppy?
How may I be of service, Master?
Wait a minute! Oh, forget.
I kept playing up until the fight with Zeke, but this was the moment that I knew I wasn't finishing this game. You gotta connect with the cast of a story-driven game, and the only thing I wanted to connect to these characters was a car battery. On a similar note, I didn't even bother playing Octopath Traveler. I found that nowadays I can't justify dumping 100 hours into a massive JRPG unless I adore everything about it. But I do want to shout out the art direction of this game. The soundtrack is incredible, and I will never get tired of looking at it. Pokemon Let's Go is not a challenging game. It does very little to innovate, and arguably takes a few steps backward in terms of the Pokemon formula. Sure, seeing Pokemon on the overworld is an amazing new feature, one that punches me right in the nostalgia, but is that really no? Oh dear, what have you started? Right, so, I love shiny hunting. It's a long, tedious process that ultimately results in nothing but a palette swap, but I find it to be very relaxing, interspersed with moments of pure joy. It may not seem like much, but being able to see these shinies on the overworld itself is so satisfying for me. It's why I bought the game. At 30 hours of playtime, I've only beaten 3 gyms. And you know what? It's worth it for me. Sea of Thieves was a game I was very excited for, but turned out kinda disappointing. It was a very bare-bones experience, at least at launch, and By the time they started adding content to it, I'd lost interest. However, it was a game you could play with other people with very few restrictions, which led to one of the most memorable moments I've ever had in a video game. It's a very good story, but also a very long one. I'd be talking for around 10 to 12 minutes, and I don't want to get that much footage. So in the interest of time, I'm just going to throw that in the description of the video. Go ahead and read it if you're interested. If not, we'll just move on. I would recommend doing so, though. It's a fun one. Well, isn't this just the most adorable game ever? I challenge anyone to play through a Hat in Time without a grin on your face. You will fail, and you will be okay with that. Nothing could ruin this cheerful mood. What the f*** is this? So how about that tonal shift? It's one thing running into some kind of scary monster in a horror game. I was expecting that corpse to stand up, and I have a gun, so it's okay. But when you go from Cilia Mafia guys to oh good god, why? It's going to leave a lasting impression. I'm not sure if I'm going to consider this a good or bad memory in the future, but it sure is one hell of a memory. Kirby Star Allies is alright. After the groundbreaking adventures that were Breath of the Wild and Odyssey, I was a little disappointed to see Kirby following the same decades-old formula. But you know what? That's okay, because look who's back! The first Kirby game I ever played, and actually the first Nintendo game, was Kirby and the Crystal Shards. Here, Kirby was constantly assisted by a cast of friends to progress through the game, giving each character a very soft spot in my heart. But while King Dedede and Waddle Dee were and remain staples of the series, Adeline and Ribbon just vanished, which really stunk, especially for Adeline. I mean, come on, anything she paints comes to life. That's such a cool ability that could be used in so many ways. It may have taken some time, but seeing them finally back in the series makes me feel so happy. Big spoiler warning. If you haven't finished God of War on PS4, and could conceivably see yourself playing it at some point in the future, please skip this segment by going to the timestamp in the comments or description, because this game is really good, and should be experienced yourself. So I'm a massive mythology nerd, and I'm not talking comic book superheroes or Disney movies or best-selling children's books, though I do like those too. I'm talking the original legends of ages past. It makes interpretations like this so much fun for me, as I know the loose plot of what's going to happen. In particular, once this guy mentioned he couldn't feel anything, I knew he was Baldur, and throughout the game I was so curious when Loki was going to show up, as Loki is the one responsible for killing Baldur in the original story. I was looking forward to the game's interpretation of the God of Mischief, but then Atreus ended up lifting his curse and Kratos snapped his neck. So I guess Kratos and Boy are taking Loki's role in the story? That's kinda a shame, actually. And then, right at the end of the game...
My name on the wall. The giants called me... Loki?
What? What a plot twist! The repercussions of Kratos' son being Loki, of all gods, mean so much more for the future of this series. I mean, Loki is the father of the World Serpent. This kid is this thing's dad. I have no idea what this is going to lead to in the future, but I can't wait to find out. There are a few spoilery things I could talk about for this game. It's got my favorite story of all the games that came out this year. But I don't think I'm going to, because at the end of the day, my favorite thing about Spider-Man is just swinging around. No other game has made simply moving around the world this much fun. I don't even want to fast travel. And that's refreshing. As I've said, I've been having a hard time playing games you have to dedicate a massive amount of time to. But on the flip side of that, my already substantial love of short, heavily replayable games has increased tremendously. 3 in particular this year: Dead Cells, FTL, and Into the Breach. A single playthrough for any of these games can last under an hour if you know what you're doing, But there's so many different ways to play through the games, and so many things that can go wrong, that I've sunk dozens of hours into each. There's no downtime, no lulls in a story or required grinding, just constant action and improvement. I know they're certainly not for everyone, but for me, these are a godsend. So Smash Bros. Ultimate came out this year. That was a thing that happened. You may have heard of it. And of course I had fun with the game. But you know what? As exciting as this game is, I had more fun with the lead up. I have never been so consistently hyped for the lead up of a video game. Snake's back! Holy shit! Wait, like, when you say everyone... Pichu! Pichu! Yes! They even have Young Link? What is happening? What is happening? This is too much! This is too much! Ah! He's back! Finally! There's the actual K-roll. Oh, that was amazing. I love you, DDD. I don't know how to feel about this. Imagine this be Joker in Smash Brothers. What? Are you kidding? No. No, 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 no way. No, don't do this to me. Do not do this to me. I don't believe it. I don't, no way. Yes! I wanted this for years. That's amazing. Oh, look at it. Yes! And there's 4 more coming. Who are they gonna be? I have no idea. But the prospect of seeing who they are after Joker, of all characters, has me more excited than any potential game coming out next year. Please give me Rayman. I actually talked about Hollow Knight last year too, but then I could only give a passing comment on the stellar atmosphere, as I had just started playing the game. But now that I've finished it twice, I can safely say that this is the best Metroidvania I have ever played. I know it's cliche to call something the Dark Souls of its genre, but this game genuinely takes inspiration from Dark Souls, but it does so in a way that doesn't feel nearly as unfair as those games do. Which is all fine and dandy, but my favorite thing about this game was the theme. You know how most stories have a whole light versus dark, good versus evil motif going for them? Hollow Knight does that in reverse. Light is the curse poisoning these critters, and darkness is where your safety lies. It's a simple change, and I'm positive this isn't the first time it's been done. But it's the first time I've seen it, and I love it. I want to reiterate that this video and the order in it is not a scale of quality. But if I was trying to claim a Game of the Year, it would definitely be Monster Hunter World. I could gush for an hour over all the improvements made here. The beautiful worlds, the new monsters, not having to have a gunner and Blade Master armor set anymore. But do you know what got me really excited? Behemoth. Monster Hunter has always had crossovers with dozens of different series, from Zelda to Devil May Cry to Yu-Gi-Oh! But those were all armor sets. Behemoth marks the first time an actual monster from another series has appeared in the game. And it's so good! It's not just, oh, this monster is showing up in this game now, no! It actually changes how the game looks and plays a bit. And besides it being one of the best fights in the entire series, it could open so many floodgates. What if we get Metroid with Ridley or Kraid? Get a crossover with Blizzard to pull in Diablo or Deathwing? Blue Eyes White Dragon is a legitimate possibility. I already love crossovers. A crossover of boss fights could be astounding. Between all the experiences I've listed off on this video, I've started to worry that I'm not into RPGs anymore. I tried to play Final Fantasy IX this year, easily my favorite of the bunch, but I couldn't. It takes too long. There's too much monotony between the moments I love. But very recently, I started playing a game that bypasses those problems. A game that's shown me there is still fun in this genre. It's just gotta steal my heart first. I love Persona 5. I love the characters, I love the story, the music is intoxicating, and the aesthetics. Look at this crimson! But best of all, I love how you defeat your enemies. Persona is a game where you inception yourself into the hearts of terrible people, and steal away their distorted desires. You beat the villains not by killing them, but by reforming them, by making them regret their actions. And in terms of a video game, I don't think I've ever experienced something that cathartic. It really says something for me when the first thing I want to do after beating a game is play through it again. This was, by far, my favorite game that I played this year. And before anyone asks, Makoto. Obviously.